Okay, this is a work through for Geometry Practice Quiz 8.1 to 8.3. I'm going to walk you through everything with this when we do it. There are two questions I want you to pay attention to. I believe they are numbered 8 and 9. So to start, find the measure of each interior angle of a regular hexagon. So by definition, a hexagon has 6 sides. I'm trying to find where my pencil went to. There we go. 6 sides. If you aren't sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices means n equals 6. So you can do this two different ways. You can do it based on the exterior angles, or you can do it based on interior angles theorem. So if you start with the exterior angles, all exterior angles sums of all polygons, excuse me, add up to be equal to 360. So if I take 360 divided by 6, that would equal 60 degrees. To find an interior angle, so this is an exterior right here. The exterior angle and the interior angle form a linear pair. So if I wanted to, one interior angle, because it's a regular hexagon, all I would have to do is say 60 plus interior equals 180, interior angle equals 120 degrees. So that's how you could find an interior angle. Another way you could do it is by the formula and do 6 minus 2 times 180 equals, so this is n number of sides minus 2 for the 2 vertices that are already attached to the one vertex, times 180. So what we do is we can create 4 triangles in here if we wanted to, equals 720. Each of the angles that I numbered are equivalent to each other or congruent. Divide by 6, which also equals 120 degrees. Either way is a true answer. So one interior angle would equal 120 degrees, and if we asked you for your exterior angle, it would be 60 degrees. For the next question, I again have a hexagon, and with the hexagon I have some of the exterior angles. So I have exterior angles equal 360 equals, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 60 plus 64 plus 69 plus 42 plus x plus 23 plus x. So the two x's combine and they get me 2x. The numerical values get me 258 equals 360. 360 minus 258, I get 102 equals 2x. Divide by 2 on both of them, x equals 51 degrees. So the x value that is missing is 51 degrees. Excuse me, my nose is running. In the next one, find the measures of x and y. Y and x are both on the interior, so with that, I know that this is a quadrilateral, so the sum of the interior angles of a quadrilateral are 360. There's a corollary to the polygon sum for that. With that, I know that 360 is equal to x plus y plus 126 plus 65. However, I also know that I have a linear pair. So since I have a linear pair here, I'm going to go 114 plus y equals 180. Subtract 114 from both sides. Get y equals 66 degrees. So in here, I'm going to take 66 plus 126 plus 65. So I'm going to get 257. So 360 equals x plus 257. X equals to be 103 degrees. So y equals 66 degrees. X equals 103 degrees. On the next question, I have a parallelogram. With the parallelogram, if you can't see the parallel symbols, sorry, my nose started running. There's your parallel lines or symbols, notations. So in order to find y, you can do it a few different ways. I'm going to look at this as this triangle here, and so to find y, I would say y plus 21 plus 104 equals 180. 125 is 21 plus 104, so 125 equals 180. Y equals to be 55 degrees. So over here, y equals 55 degrees. To find x, or z, I'm going to look and see what I got going on. So in a parallelogram, opposite angles are congruent, so I could have used the 21 to help find the angle of y. Didn't want to, because I have enough to do it the way I want to do it. But z is at just 104 degrees. Once again, opposite angles are congruent. Here, I have a backward z, or I have a transversal with two parallel lines. X and 21 are alternate interior angles. So x equals 21 degrees. And so the reasonings of what I use triangle sum theorem. I use the alternate, try that one again. Alternate interior angle theorem. And then opposite angles in a parallel. That's a very bad parallelogram symbol. Parallelograms are congruent. So just to let you know what I use to do this. This next problem is a word problem. We love this problem. Pay close attention to it. So I'm going to put a star next to it because it's really important. They're all really important, but this one's really important. So when you do is, if you look at problems and you have a parallelogram, it says one interior angle, excuse me, is 60 degrees more than 2 times the measure of another angle. So you got angle A and angle B. In a parallelogram, if you have a verbiage or a word problem that says one angle is more than another angle, you're talking about consecutive angles. I just picked the letters A and B, or first and second, or the two corners of a parallelogram. Hence why I'm dividing this in half. So with that, I write down what I read. So 60 degrees more, 2 times another angle. Do you know what that angle is? That's going to be this one down here of B. So if B is x, the angle missing up above is x. Now, I only look at, excuse me, the consecutive angles. I don't do the opposite angles and add up to be 360. So what I do now is I say, okay, these two angles, since they are in a parallelogram, are consecutive interior angles. Therefore, they add up to be 180. So 2x plus 60 plus x equals 180. 3x plus 60 equals 180. 3x equals 120. X equals 40 degrees. Now, that 40 degrees corresponds to one of the angles, which is B. And then if I want to, I can plug it into this part and double check my answer and get 140. Or I just take 180 minus 40, and I would get my consecutive angle. It's kind of your preference, but know that opposite angles are congruent. So if this is 40 at B, this angle over here is 40, and vice versa with 140. So it says find the measure of each angle. Literally write out all of them. 40 twice, 140 degrees twice. So you write down the 4 angles. On the back side, we have some more things with parallelograms and everything else. So if ON is equal to 7x minus 5, LM is equal to 6x plus 3, NM is equal to x minus 4, and OL is equal to 2y plus 5, find the values of x and y that make the LMNO quad a parallelogram. In order to be a quadrilateral, into a parallelogram based on side lengths, you would need to either do something with parallelness or opposite pairs of sides are congruent. Based on giving me 4 side distances or measurement equivalents, that's what we're going to be doing. So ON is 7x minus 5. LM is 6x plus 3. NM is x minus 4. And OL is 2y plus 5. So opposite sides are congruent. So opposite, opposite. 7x minus 5 equals 6x plus 3. And then 2y plus 5 is equal to x minus 4. So solving this problem first, move like terms to be together. X equals 8. Sweet. So found x, plug it back in. 7 times x is 56, minus 5, 51. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 3 is 51. Works out great, so I know x equals 8. Now to find y, this equation here with y for my opposite sides of OL and NM, I need to substitute what I just found. So if I plug 8 into here, 8 minus 4 is 4, so 4 equals 2y plus 5. Subtract 5 over. 2y equals negative 1. Divided by 2. Y equals a negative 1/2. Now, you can get a negative answer. Plug it in to double check. We already know if I plug 8 into NM, side length is 4. 2 times a negative 1/2 is a negative 1. Plus 5. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. These lengths are congruent, even though I have a negative answer. Another question that is asked is find the values of N and M so the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. This is specific to, diagonals. So with this being specific to diagonals, same letters are going to correspond to the same diagonal first and foremost, but if you are ever unsure, please ask about where your values might go in case you are very, very unsure. I can answer that question at any moment. So, if the diagonals, both diagonals, bisect each other, then you have a parallelogram. So what they want you to do is assume that the diagonals are bisected, and by doing that, you're going to find the value that when you set them equal to each other, allows that statement to be true. So, setting the first diagonal equal to each other, lengths equal to each other because of congruency, and then measurements are equal to each other. Wrong word. Solve it out, you get 5 to be n. Second one, set 3m equal to m plus 8, subtract your m's, divide by 2, m equals 4. So m equals 4. If you are ever unsure about your answer, plug it back in. 4 plus 8 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 is equal to 12. 2 times 5 is 10. Minus 1 is 9. 9 is equal to 9. All right. So yesterday in class, more specifically on Wednesday, February 12th, 2020, I talked about consecutive interior angles cannot be used to prove that parallelograms can happen from a quad. Your teacher was wrong. Because if you use the consecutive interior angle converse and you prove that two angles are supplementary by doing mathematics, you can prove that two lines are parallel. So, with this question, I will have instructions on the board to add 75 here. By doing the consecutive interior angles converse, we can prove lines are parallel. So, not a great question when you only have two of the sides, which is what we were talking about in class, not really the one that had the 111x or 111x and 111. Too much assumption has to happen. And I talked to Mr. Tompkins, and I'm just letting you know I was wrong. And I literally looked at him and said I was dumb because I was wrong. So with this, here's what you need to do. what we're going to do is we're going to take these two angles here and we're going to add them. Set them equal to 180. Because if these two add up to be 180, okay, purple pen to show, we're showing parallelness with the purple line. So we're going to prove that this is parallel to this. By finding the value of x, that makes it a true statement. And then by doing so, we're going to then double check our answers because we have to do this twice in order to prove both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So this becomes 80 plus 4x equals 100 minus 80, 180, try that again. 4x equals 100, divide by 4, x equals 75. Okay? Yes, opposite pairs will now be congruent, because if 25, Pomeroy, 25. And when you put 25 in here, that gives you opposite, but that has nothing to do with this angle here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and do the same thing again, but now we're going to use what we just found. So 4 times 25 plus 5 plus 3 times 25, is that equal to 180? Well, we already know this is 75, and this is 105. 180 equals 180. So since we just proved that that sum of those two consecutive interior angles are parallel, we just proved that these two angles are consecutive interior, which proved that these two sides that are opposite of each other are parallel. So since I just proved both pairs of opposite sides being parallel by doing consecutive interior angles twice, and you have to do it twice, the value of x equals 25 is a true answer. You cannot just do one set, and you also cannot assume opposite angles are congruent, which is what I also said in class. There's a lot of questions out there about that are algebra based that are not always the best choices on how we create our diagrams. So I apologize for being wrong on that. The next question is one that is in the book, and 2 of the 3 class periods did get to see that for today when they checked their answers. 1 class period did not. So I want to make sure that you understand that we all need to know how to do this question. I will also make sure and go over it right before your quiz on Friday, just to double check. There are multiple ways we can do this. We can do things with the midpoint. We can do things with slopes of lines, which is the definition of a parallelogram, and that's what I'm going to stick to. So the first thing that you need to do is be able to plot the points correctly. So on A, B, C, and D, plot the ones that you can. So I'm going to take trying to find a pen that I like. Let's see. I'll use a dark blue. So A is -1, 0. So this is A. B is 4, -1. B. C is 2, -4. And D is unknown. Now the thing about this is when you do this parallelogram, the 4 vertices have to go in chronological order. So you have to go A, B, C, and D's got to be somewhere over here. So we know D has to be over here. Where it's at, not too sure. But with that, I do know that I can look at the slopes of opposite sides. So, segments. You're going to have segment AB, and that needs to be parallel to segment CD. Okay? And then you have to have segment BC be parallel to segment AD. Okay? So with this, when you do that, you can count slopes. It's on a graph. I'm not going to tell you no, but you need to let me know what you're counting, and you cannot just mark things. So the way I'm about to do this is exactly how you need to do this, and pay attention. In order to have a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel. So if I go up 1 and over 5. This is up 1 and to the left negative 5. Okay? The slope for BC, excuse me, if I was to do the slope for BC, okay, to do my slope for BC, I went down 3 and to the left negative 2. Now, you can go up 3 and over 2. You would get the same answer. I'm just being consistent on my drawing, because since I have to draw from A to D, I'm starting with B and going to C. And since I have to draw from C to D, I started with B and drew to A. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start at C and I got to draw to D. I'm going to go up 1, left 5. So I'm going to go up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that looks like where my point should be. I went up 1, left 5. You do have to write that down. You also need to show it on your picture. It does not have to be 2 colors. 2 colors in a video make way more sense. So now, doing the same thing, I'm going to start at A. I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go left 2. That's the same point. So I went down 3, left 2. That's the same slope, so if I drew lines through these points, I'm going to get a pencil here. That gives me that line, that gives me this line. Those are parallel. And same thing here and here. That's my parallelogram. That's what you created by drawing your slopes. That connects those points and gets those lines. I'm not asking for the equations, but you have to prove all 4 slopes. So this point here is 1, negative 2, negative 3, and then down 3. So point D is at negative 3, negative 3. You must graph, write, and do your slopes. And I have to see your slopes of how you count them, and you have to label them, and you have to show work. Otherwise, you need to do it a different way, and that's with midpoints. So if you want to do it a different way, I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you would do first is you would find your midpoint between AC. Because when you have diagonals and they bisect each other, they create the midpoints of both lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to create these midpoints, find this midpoint here, and we're going to be exact. So we're going to actually do the formula. So the formula with the midpoint is x plus x divided by 2, y plus y divided by 2. Okay? And that's how you find a midpoint. So we're going to do that with AC. So we're going to find AC's midpoint. So going with A, negative 1 plus 2, once again AC, divided by 2, comma, 0 plus negative 4 divided by 2. Move this over. This gives me a negative 1 plus 2, which is 1, over 2. And this gives me negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. Which is roughly where I'm at, is negative 2, 1/2. So now, to find this midpoint out here and find the answer of negative 3, 3, we have to work backwards from Chapter 1, Section 3. So, endpoint with midpoint. To find and prove our answer is exactly correct, you could also do it this way. I'm telling you, you can do slopes, but if you don't like that, you can do it this way. So you have 1/2. Let's try this again. I'm going to take a little bit more room. You have 1/2, which is x, which equals the sum of BD, 4 plus x, divided by 2. Plus x divided by 2. Yep. And I'm just making sure I'm doing this right. I apologize. I usually do it just by slopes, but talking to Mr. Neff today, I'm like in the algebra. And then to do y's, the by is negative 1 plus y divided by 2 equals the midpoint's value of -2. Okay? So to do this, you multiply by 2, multiply by 2, cancel out, cancel out. You get 4 plus x equals 1, x equals -3, which we did say it was. Multiply by 2, multiply by 2, cancel out. Can't cancel anything out over here. You get -1 plus y equals -4. Add 1 to both sides, y equals -3. So, here's your option. You either show all your lines with the graph, showing your midpoints, or not your midpoints, with the graph, showing your slopes, draw your slopes, all 4 lines, because opposite pairs must be parallel, and you have to show that and prove that, or you do your math with the midpoints. I'll let it be your option. But the answer still is -3, -3. Either way, your choice. Quiz is on Friday. I will check your homework on Friday. Answers will also be uploaded with this. Have a wonderful night, day. Have a wonderful class day.